The next element I want to show you is how do you identify a custom CSS selector for pages. So let's walk through a use case. Let's say I want to search for coaches, and I enter that, and then I go to pages, and then I have all these lists, right? So first of all, scroll through the website, through the page, get a sense of how the page is built. As you can see, we have here a list, and in between there is every now and then there is an ad. So pay attention that it may disrupt your list, but it doesn't play any role because it will be just saved as an empty row if, let's say, in this list, the second element cannot be saved because it's something else. All right, so as usual, click on inspect, and assume in this scenario we want to save the name and the link. So it makes sense for us to look at this A. It will contain both the text of the link and the link itself. If you choose span here, this will give you probably the name of the page, but you won't be able to get the link. So look for this A tag whenever you want to save it as a link. All right, so as usual, let's scroll up and let's analyze the structure and see what we can use of it. So already here, span, dir, are auto. So this is something we could use. We have here div with certain attributes. I wouldn't use the value, but the attributes could potentially be used. I don't see them much anywhere else. What we cannot really use as a unique identifier is, div and class, because this appears everywhere, and this kind of cryptic value is also not something we can use. Next, we can see here div role, and this article appears to me as also something that we would probably be able to use as a list. In fact, let's check it out. As you can see, this is where we're going to use ns_child to be able to save it as a list. All right, that's great. And let's start exactly from that point on. Okay, div role article. For now, I won't worry about the setting up the ns_child element so that we can do it later. And for now, let's just make sure we can identify the selector at all. Okay, opening this, we can use these span dir auto and then A. Let's see if it works out. Span and then A. And I see here role presentation. It appears to me also quite unique. So I would try to directly add that one to presentation. Okay, copying that and now switching to console, hitting the arrow up to get the latest command, which for me was document query selector all, and this is exactly what I need. Pasting it inside the double quotes, hitting enter. We have 19 selectors. This is normal because we have a list, but let's see if the list is correct, right? So this is the first in the list. The next one. So perfect, we identified the right selector. To see if we can actually build even a leaner one, I wonder if we delete the span dir auto and just remain at div article and then presentation. Hit enter, and we still got 19 elements, and those are exactly the ones that we need. So we can make this selector even leaner, which is great. Now the question is, where do we add an ns_child to be able to use it as a list? That is already discussed, is going to be inside this article. Now, how do I know that it's inside the article? I basically need to identify an element that represents this list. And you can see it by finding out the element that has all this, well, finding out a selector that has all these items of a list on this one level. So if I were to, for example, try looking for that, you see there are no more elements on that level, so it doesn't represent a list. And this one neither, this one neither, and so on. So you can see that it was actually quite easy to identify. And sometimes you may have some, for example, here you have a list of 2, but obviously this is not the list of this list. So you could address this as nschild1 and nschild2, but it won't give you that exact list. It will probably give you kind of a different list because, for example, this is often treated as a list too. So this would be nschild1 and this too. Without looking at it, without guaranteeing, this is exactly the way I'm now assuming, but this is very likely to be the case. All right, so now you got your CSS element for that. And now the only thing we need to check is the list working or not. So getting here 1 gives us the first one. That's great. Always double check that with 2, 3, and so on. 2 doesn't give us anything, but I'm not surprised because 2 is an add. So it could be that it has a different CSS structure, but it doesn't matter because if you're saving that list to a data table, it will just save an empty row and you can move on. So the next one is the right one. And to check again, let's add the 4s, see if that's the right one. Expand, hover. That's the right. And if you want to be completely sure, let's add a 5. Hit enter, expand, hover. We've got the 5th one. Perfect. So that was the right selector. One more note I want to make here is that when you see this selector and we defined our list by nschild 1 for item 1 or loop index when we want to save the whole list inside our application, instead of that you can use the other method, and I wanted to show you how that would pan out for this selector. So instead of using this nschild, what I can do instead, I will delete this part here, and I will simply add the filter function with greater than twice, and then simply add ns equals 0 if I want to address the first item in the list, and for the loop index, I'm going to use loop index 0, and I'm going to save it. And we can save this, so we cannot really check that in the console because the filter function is unique to our application, doesn't work on the Chrome console. But we can now save 3 first results. So the taskbot is now opening the Facebook website, and it's now going to save the first results. Let's check the table. So as you can see here, all 3 were saved, and that's another way how you can use, how you can define the list. I also want to point out that this serves the demonstration purposes, but actually you don't need to build that selector at all because you can simply go to our list of pre-built selectors and then you click on list, and here's the selector that you need. You can simply add it and use it out of the box. Thanks for watching.